So this is where all football players get their acting training from. James Bond. Finally, an answer. Oh boy. This is going to be a fun review. So a few weeks ago, I rewatched Casino Royale, one of my favorite films. I was thinking on doing a video on a particular scene and dissecting it, but then I lost interest in doing so and instead had another idea. Since I have never really cared to watch the older Bond films, why don't I do that? I mean, I love Casino Royale, and there are parts of Skyfall that I enjoy, so maybe there are a few other great Bond films for me to discover, and the one I picked to start was Goldfinger, a decision I terribly regret. While watching this movie, the first thing that crossed through my mind was, is this a joke? Did I download the right Bond film? The one with 87% on Metacritic? Turns out I did, and now I feel like I don't understand anything anymore. This whole film plays out more like a parody of a James Bond movie than an actual Bond movie. Bond, for starters, comes off a little bit creepy and weird. In the opening sequence, he uses a woman as his shield and doesn't bother to check if she's alright in the end. Instead, he makes a witty remark, or what was supposed to be a witty remark.
Shocking. Positively shocking.
And just walks out the door, like it was perfectly normal. There is a small chance that the woman was one of the antagonists, or at least was working with them and was just there baiting Bond. But if that was the case, then the film did a terrible job at establishing that. That entire sequence was awkward and off-putting. So many things happen throughout the film that don't make any sense and come off either awkward or ridiculous. Like the time Bond got inside a hotel room that wasn't his, and the cleaning lady didn't seem to give a shit. Or the fact that this woman was perfectly okay with a random stranger being inside her apartment and just immediately wanted to fuck him. Because I guess this is a James Bond movie and that's what's supposed to happen. Never mind character interactions and character development. That shit takes too long. Let's just have the girl want to fuck the random intruder because he's James Bond. Yes, that makes sense. Speaking on things that don't make any sense, I kind of want to see the footage of Goldfinger carefully painting this woman in gold. Like, there isn't paint on the bed, or anywhere else in the room for that matter. Goldfinger must have been a pro with those coloring kids books when he was a child. This shit's amazing, the guy is really talented. The timing of the music and the use of cheesy sound effects made the whole film come off super dramatic and over the top. It made me feel like I wasn't supposed to take anything seriously, it was all just one big joke that I didn't get. Another thing I never really understood was why people consider golf to be a boring sport. But then I saw a golf sequence this film has to offer, and now I see their point. This shit's boring. The dialogue was as riveting as Donald Trump's foreign policies are peaceful.
Oh, bad luck, you're in the rough.
Diamonds, ideal for smuggling, attracting the biggest and most ingenious criminals. Thank you, Russell. That'll go. Thank you, sir.
The special effects were laughable, obvious green screen is obvious, and the action scenes, holy mother of God. You would think that good action would be a must in a Bond film. Turns out, no, not really. This is so fucking stupid. How the hell did this film get an 87 on Metacritic? What kind of drugs were those critics taking? I want to try them. Any drug that manages to convince professional film critics that this film deserves an 8 or a 9 out of 10 must deliver an amazing high. One thing I did enjoy, yes, there was one thing, was the laser scene. I like how it didn't end with the cliche of Bond finding some contrived way of getting out of the situation. He actually had to use his brain and convince Goldfinger not to kill him. That was pretty surprising, considering everything else. Oh, and I also enjoyed the opening music sequence. That was pretty neat. I was thinking on giving this movie a 4 out of 10, but that just doesn't sit right with me. This movie was a complete waste of time as far as I'm concerned. Nothing in it makes me think it's worth a 4 out of 10. And again, I don't understand why people consider this to be a great movie. I even watched a Chris Tuckman video from 7 years ago where he puts Goldfinger in his top 5 Bond films, and the arguments he uses are just baffling.
This is one that everyone likes.
Yeah, not everyone likes this movie.
My name is Pussy Galore. Sean Connery sinks down into his seat and goes, I must be dreaming. It was great because Bond admitted the stupidity of that name, and it made it work.
One scene where a character realizes how stupid the universe he's in is doesn't excuse all the others where Bond just plays along with the stupidity.
But Connery was so good as Bond. He was the guy who set the standard as Bond.
I didn't hate Sean Connery as Bond, But again, that initial sequence where he uses a woman as a shield and then just tosses her over like she's literal garbage didn't make me think much of him as a person, but I don't know, maybe this was the type of thing people in 1964 enjoyed watching.
It has some of the best lines in the whole series. You expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
I admit, that line was pretty good, but unfortunately, the majority of the dialogue isn't on that level.
Oh, bad luck, you're in the rough.
Very good action also for the series. It was one of the first films where the action actually started to look like it was actually real.
Yeah, listen, I like Chris, but I have no fucking clue what he's talking about. The action was a joke. Maybe he's giving it a discount since this film came out in 1964, but I don't know. To me, the action looks awful.
Goldfinger had realistic action.
Again,
A fun plot,
a fun plot. Yeah, that golf sequence was really enthralling.
and a really riveting finale.
Yeah, the finale was a joke. In fact, it was at this moment that I realized how the entire movie was screaming at me to call it terrible. I guess it was my breaking point. I hated this film. As a fan of cinema and just general movie fan, this whole experience wasn't rewarding or entertaining at all. I don't think Goldfinger is a well-made film. I think Goldfinger is a joke. The tone is all over the place, like the audience is just supposed to take everything that happens for granted, even if what happens is astonishingly stupid and impossible to take in. The action varied from kind of amusing to impressively weak, and there was nothing surprising or interesting about it. Star Wars from 1977 is impressive. This, on the other hand, is not. And I don't have anything else to say. I'm giving Goldfinger a 3 out of 10. This movie was definitely not made for me, but it does make me think how far we have come from this to this. And I'm glad this movie wasn't my introduction to the Bond franchise. Anyway, see you next time.